Why is it that some autistic people repeat their own words? Well, on this video, we're going to explore the topic of palilalia and autism. Let's go. Welcome, my friend. Thank you so much for watching this video. It's great to have you. I'm Orion Kelly, that autistic guy, and I'm all about helping you raise your level of understanding, acceptance, and appreciation of the autistic community. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, I'd be delighted if you consider subscribing to my YouTube channels. I'd love it if you join this amazing YouTube community. You've got my Orion Kelly, that autistic guy YouTube channel with all the content you'd ever want to get, and my purpose-built, dedicated podcast YouTube channel, Orion Kelly Podcasts. Why is it that some autistic people repeat their own words? All right, let's get started, my friends, exploring the topic of palilalia and autism. But first, what is palilalia? Let's break it down. Palilalia or palilalia, just like echolalia or echolalia. Let's push past how you want to pronounce it or say it. Either way, you're right, but let's talk about what it is. Palilalia is the repetition of your own words. And you can broaden that out, obviously. Your own words, your own phrases, your own sounds. That is what palilalia is. Hang on, that's echolalia. No. We'll clear that up in just a sec. Just hang on, cool your jets there, champ. So some actually view palilalia as like an immediate form of echolalia. And I guess that's because the repetition occurs immediately after the utterance or the word being said. Bottom line is, palilalia and echolalia are not the same thing. Sure, both include the repetition of words and phrases and sounds, but crucially, they have different causes and symptoms. Echolalia is the repetition of words, phrases, or sounds that have been heard or observed. So not coming from you. In addition to that, the repetition can occur not immediately, but really any time between then and in the future. Some manifestations of echolalia for me can occur years after I heard the phrase or the sound or the words. Echolalia is one of the more common things experienced by autistic people. Take it with a grain of salt, but some research says it can be up to the 80 to 90% of all autistic people experience and use echolalia. But this is not a video on echolalia. It's a video on palilalia. Palilalia is the repetition of your own words or phrases. Orion, do you want a drink? No, thanks. No. No, thanks. No. No, thanks. No, thanks. Orion, do you need some help with that? Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, please. Okay, broken down. Does that make sense? Palilalia, the repetition of your own words and phrases. Now, palilalia may come across to some people as, well, you sound like you've got Tourette's. In fact, these are very common experiences for people with Tourette's. There's still different manifestations of different disabilities, conditions, and diagnoses. Okay, so maybe we should zero in on that particular experience of palilalia and autistic people. Now we've got our heads around the idea of palilalia to a general extent, let's talk a little bit more about the connection between palilalia and autistic people. What is the connection? Is there a connection? Well, it's complicated, but what I can tell you is studies have shown there is definitely a connection between palilalia and autism, in that autistic people tend to experience palilalia more than their neurotypical peers in the general population, which sounds like a prison. It's estimated, so take it with a grain of salt, that around about 25%, 1/4 of all autistic people have palilalia. Like my videos and podcasts I've done on echolalia, we've had a conversation about how autistic people can absolutely repeat the words and phrases and sounds of others or their environment. And echolalia and palilalia are clearly not the same things. As we've talked about, palilalia is about repeating your own words, the things that you are saying. But it's not just autistic people that use and experience palilalia, echolalia. It's also quite common in those with Tourette's. So from an autistic point of view, through an autism lens, it would be fair to say in general terms that autistic people can often use, whether it's echolalia or palilalia, in more of an inappropriate context than others who may come across more contextual in their use of it. And like I said, that's where this whole discussion gets really complicated. The connection between palilalia and autism, again, you've got to take it all with a grain of salt. The studies, the connections, the research, we're talking about the brain here, the human mind. But let's look at it like this. Okay, so you're saying that autistic people, around about 25%, can experience palilalia. Significantly higher percentages for echolalia. Either way, most autistic people are going to experience and use, if not both, one or the other. So why would it come across more potentially, in a neurotypical sense, I must stress, inappropriate, not in context with the way we use palilalia, repeating our own words, or echolalia, repeating others, the sounds and words and phrases of others. Let's go back to the building blocks of an autism diagnosis. As autistic people, we have clear challenges with communication, with social interaction. We can experience repetitive behaviors, restrictive behaviors. And for some, including me, challenges in not only initiating, but also continuing and maintaining conversations. Okay, so with those in mind, we know those are clear diagnostic challenges for autistic people. With those in mind, if we are going to use palilalia, well, clearly it's pretty much a given that it could, not at all times, but it could come across in general terms as inappropriate or out of context in the way we use it. Well, yeah, because our brain is autistic and we have challenges in conversations and interactions and communication. So yeah, like no duh. All those challenges are clear traits of being an autistic person. When you bring into the mix echolalia or palilalia, and clearly it's going to be used through the lens of an autistic brain. Okay, Orion. Sure, but seriously, why do autistic people use palilalia? I'm glad you asked, because I've prepared a list. Who's ready for my list? Repeating your own words or phrases can provide a sensory input. That can be many things, including satisfying or just calming. Autistic people can use palilalia to compensate for our challenges with communication and interaction. A quick example here just for me, and this has no relevance to any other autistic person because we're all different, but sometimes I feel like my wife might not hear me or hear me in the way that I'm trying to convey, or she might misunderstand. So sometimes I will answer questions repeatedly over and over and over to make sure she got it. Okay, so for example, she might say, do you want this? No, no, no. No, I don't want it. No, I don't want it. No, I don't want it. You might react like she does. Initially, it can be like, I heard you. Okay, okay. But see, I'm going, my wife might not always hear me the way I need her to hear me. She might misinterpret it, might misunderstand it. Not her fault. Two different brains. Okay, so if I just repeat it over and over and over, then that's going to compensate for my challenges interacting and communicating, right? Now, of course, you might go, yeah, it's also going to make everyone really annoyed with you. Okay, but that's not the point of this video. Other reasons why autistic people can use palilalia. The repetition of words can actually provide a sense of security and comfort. Repetition of words can actually help reduce anxiety. Some autistic people may repeat words or phrases related to a special interest. How about multitasking? How about time management? How about executive function? Some autistic people can repeat their own words or phrases as a way of maintaining focus, as a form of preventing ourselves from becoming overwhelmed, even distracted by a new or upcoming task. And that exact same scenario can even be used as a way of stopping you from switching tasks. You might say, forget about that, forget about that, forget about that. Let's do this. Let's focus on this. We're going to focus on this. We're going to focus on this. Forget about that. Forget about that. Autism is a spectrum. We're all different. We all have individual challenges, strengths, and support needs. Okay, so as a result, whether you have an autistic child, adult in your life, we're all different, fluid support needs, different challenges and strengths. As a result, autistic people can use palilalia to interact with you, to interact with others, to express our thoughts and feelings and needs. Or you know what, seriously, sometimes to just engage you. Or engage with you. What's that noise? 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 What is that noise? What is that noise? What is that noise? Palilalia can also be used by autistic people to actually help us remember things, to actually help us process things. That's right. Autistic people don't just repeat their own words over and over and over, or words of others over and over and over to be annoying. That would be ridiculous. There's a reason behind everything that autistic people do, and it all comes from a different brain. However, some autistic people may use palilalia without even knowing it, or for seemingly no reason. In other words, without being aware they're doing it, without being aware they're repeating their own words, or echolalia, the words of others. And you think, oh, there's no reason? Actually, you know what? There is. There always is. But it doesn't mean we have to know the reason, or we have to be aware of it. We have to justify a reason to you. But you know what? In those instances, a lot of times it's done out of a habit due to what I would probably think would be something like an overstimulation. The stimuli in their environment, overstimulating them, oversensitive to something, undersensitive to something, an automatic response they're not aware of and can't put their finger on to justify, but in fact, an automatic response to the stimuli in their environment. Now, I get it. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm autistic. I've got an autistic child. Palilalia can be confusing, frustrating, even distressing, not just for the autistic person experiencing it or using it, but probably in some cases can be perceived more distressing or frustrating or confusing for the people receiving it. The family members, the mums, the dads, the carers, the partners, the friends. I get that. But by having a conversation and going through some examples of why autistic people use palilalia, I think that will in some way give you a little bit more of an appreciation and understanding of why we do it. But we still have to acknowledge, it can be kind of annoying, maybe distressing, maybe angering, maybe frustrating. But see, this is where I'd say to you, let's not just jump to the whole treatments for palilalia. In my view, this is just my view, the best treatment for palilalia or echolalia isn't speech pathology or occupational therapy or behavioral therapy for that matter. In my view, the best treatment for palilalia or echolalia is a thing I call good old-fashioned understanding, appreciation, and compassion. I'd love to see your thoughts, comments, feelings, experiences in the comments below. And please, if there's another topic you'd like me to cover, well, let me know. I really do appreciate your support. Thank you so much for being a part of this amazing community. If this video has resonated with you, please share it with your family and friends so we can reach more people. Until my next video, thank you so much for watching. We'll talk soon.